Homekeepers. How are you today, my friend? Would you just grab a cup of tea and join me, because this is going to be a good program, because it's going to be three friends just going over some history that we've had together. And what's more entertaining than you get, a few women together to talk. Maybe that's why the program, The View, is quite popular. Well, this maybe isn't our representation of The View, but I got dear friends here today with the most amazing story, and it's all in a book called The Crash, the Ring, and the Orange Thread, and it's not a novel, it's true. Mary McClellan, who is the author of the book, is, we go back to college days. She lived next door to me on the dormitory hall. And Shirley Fulbright, a longtime friend who was on the administrative team at PTL years and years ago, is the co-author. And they're here with me today to talk about this book. I'm so anxious for you to meet them and to learn this story that if you never believed in the grace of God, the direction of God, and that He can make the worst situations bring glory to His kingdom, this current story, this is a very relevant story today, will teach that to you. And I'm going to join Stephanie over there. We are going to make I was going to say raspberry. No, it's a blueberry crisp, and it takes a whole lot of blueberries, and healthy. What's healthier really than all the antioxidants in blueberries, and it's got oatmeal stuff on the top. So wait till we absolutely show you how to do this. And if anybody doesn't like blueberries, they probably need some therapy. So we're going to fix that for you. But before I do, I want to tell you again about the Petite Cross bracelet. We're going to show it to you on the screen, and that is available for that gift of at least $15. You can order it in a gold tone or a silver tone, and we will send it right out to you. We had Martha Brangenberg on from Kara's gift shop. She said these are all the rage now. That's cross that lays sideways. So if you use a credit card, 1-800-229-0059, or write to me at Homekeepers, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, and we will get it right out to you. Would you agree, Steph? You can wear it all dressed up. You can wear it with your jeans. You can wear it with anything. And
yes,
how are you today?
Doing great. How are you?
Well, you had a bad morning, though.
It was rough, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm. You need new tires. Mm-hmm. Now, did you take that out of your emergency fund?
I did.
You did. So
yes.
You had, God bless the emergency fund. Mm-hmm. Okay. Was there another crisis?
Oh, no. I just had to take the dogs to the groomers.
To the dogs to the groomer. Okay. All right. We've got...
You have six cups of fresh blueberries here. You have a half a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of cornstarch, a teaspoon of lemon juice, and you have a quarter teaspoon of coarse salt.
And my expertise with the
spraying. And then I have 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter and a third of a cup of sugar that I'm going to cream together.
All right. There's a lot of, I put these blueberries in my protein shake in the morning.
You know, my daughter doesn't like blueberries.
Uh-oh. She needs therapy.
She likes almost every other fruit, but just not blueberries.
She might like them in this form, you think?
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't know where that came from.
Well, with that protein shake, you can do anything, but I'll tell you, a great combination is some blueberries and some banana.
Oh, yeah. Banana and pineapple.
This is cornstarch. Gives it a little stick.
Yes.
Well, you're really making the topping there, right?
Yeah, I'm going to make the crisp part. So
and this has, what, a tablespoon or so of lemon juice, and that will put the kick in it.
Little tang. So I have 3/4 cup flour. I have a half a cup of old-fashioned oats, not instant.
Yeah, I wonder why they did that. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe I'll get too mushy.
I don't know. I make what I call my health cookie all the time, and I always use the regular oats because I figure if they made them quick, they messed with them.
Yeah. That's a half a cup of chopped nuts.
And that right there, my friend, 6 cups.
It's a lot of blueberries. You got a jumper. You got a jumper out front.
Do I?
Yep. And then I have a half a teaspoon of coarse salt and a half a teaspoon of baking soda.
And
I'm gonna
you
mix this up.
bake it at 350 for about an hour, but it bears watching.
Yes.
Anytime anything's in the oven that long, it can get too brown and that kind of. You through with this?
Yes. And then I'm just going to take the creamed sugar and butter and mix it in with the dry ingredients. And I'm going to get in here with my hands.
And these are supposed to cool for a few minutes. This is still a little bit
Yeah,
hot.
because blueberries are hot.
They'll burn you.
Yeah.
Burn your little mouth.
You just want to get this so it's clumped together.
Oh, so we were talking earlier about her emergency fund. She is our example. Oh, look at that. I'm going to get a bunch of juice.
You know what that would be good over? Ice cream.
Okay, we'll let you put that on there while I
Okay.
taste this.
Okay.
Like, what's not to like here?
Yeah, right?
Oh, my.
Just spread this around. And then, like you
Oh,
said,
my.
350 in the oven for about an hour, but watch it. And you know what? With the blueberries, you might want to have a pan underneath of it just in case.
Well, now, we put this, see how they cook down, because this is bigger.
Yeah.
This will be a little bit.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You got to taste it, girl.
Okay. Me and my dainty bites. I have to remember, be dainty.
Yeah, she watched one of the programs and felt she was not dainty. Isn't that good? Just
That is
perfect. With a
delicious.
hot cup of tea, the world is
Or
good.
ice cream.
That would work. All right, now the information for the recipe is coming up on your screen, and then following that, you're going to see just a quick video of what this book is we're going to talk about, which is The Crash, the Ring, and the Orange Thread. Wonderful book. I hope you'll make an effort to get it. Stay with us.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, please send your request along with a gift of $5 or more to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758.
Introducing the new Zulon Pressbook, The Crash, The Ring, and the Orange Thread by Mary McClellan with Shirley Fulbright Martin.
All right, I'm very pleased to introduce to you my good friends Mary McClellan in a, is that a sari?
No, it's what you
Not-
call, we used to call it Punjabi dress, but it's called a salwa now. It's from the northern part of India, though, yes.
Gorgeous color. And Shirley Fulbright, we've had some good lunches, haven't we?
We have.
It's good to see you both and to really just reminisce over so much of life, because Mary and I went to the same Bible college, and I remember you lived next door to me.
Yes, can I say how I remember you?
Why not? This is just the poor man's view, or whatever. We're going to
Well,
just...
I was a country bumpkin coming home from India, wearing bobby socks and saddle Oxfords, and I moved next door to two beautiful women that looked like they walked out of Vogue magazine, and they knew everything about life, and I was as green as could be. So my memories of how gorgeous you are and were, and things I needed to learn about living in America.
I doubt doubt that I would show any of those pictures from Bible college. And a rich, rich history in missions. Where have you not lived and been?
Well, as you know by the book, I was raised in India as a missionary's child. And I went to kindergarten in India with the man I married when you were at CBI. And so I was a missionary's kid. Then I was a missionary, went to Africa as a missionary. And so I've been a missionary, pastor's kid, a missionary kid, and a missionary.
Now, I know that you co-authored the book with her, and I just, as I read it, I thought there's a lot of messages in here, but what was the reason?
Well, the reason I wrote the book was, my children used to say, Mom, your life is a cross between the movie I Dreamed of Africa and Sound of Music. So they were always saying, Mom, you need to put it on paper. And then I became friendly with Tim LaHaye, and he said, Mary, you've got to write the book. So it actually was the final part of his encouragement. And then I thought, Lord, if you want to write this book, I'm not a writer. And Shirley and I were walking through the Millennium Mall one day.
Sitting on a bench.
Sitting on a bench, yes. And she was asking me about, you know, well, what would you like to do? What's your life? She knew me, but she was talking. And we sat down and she said, Mary, as you tell me that story of when you were 5 years old going away to boarding school, I get it, she said. It was like an aha moment. She said, that's why loneliness has been so prominent in your life. You lost a husband, lost a second husband. She said, and as she began to weave those threads together, she said, Mary, if you want to write it, I'll help you. And that's how it came together.
Well, Shirley you've done a lot of writing in your background and various things. And how long have you known each other?
Mary and I, since PGL days.
About 32 years.
All right, I want to go back to the point where, well, even before that, when you were sent away to boarding school, that's the moment when I say, God, are you really requiring that? I've left my homeland, you know, and I've left the opportunity to, you know, make the American dream and all that. I've left all that to follow your call, but to send a child away to boarding school, I'm not sure I could do it.
Many people say that. I always say I had a wonderful home life. My dad and mom were the world to me. And even though my mom and dad, I knew, loved the Lord and he was number one in their life, I never felt like I was in second place. And I think that's the foundation. But that's what you did in India. We couldn't live as children down in the heat of the plains. And so we were sent away to boarding school, and other missionaries' children did the same thing. But I went to boarding school all the way through my high school years. And yes, it's a different life. But fortunately, because I had such a strong home life and a wonderful father and mom, I didn't resent it. I knew it was part of life. And my dad used to say to me, honey, you weren't called to the mission field, we were. God will make up to you what you have given up. And I'm certainly a witness of the fact God has.
Okay, now fast forward. You end up in Africa in a leper colony. And your husband, Ken, who I remember so fondly, was there to build a dam. And I think we don't understand the whole scope of missions. You think you go get a little building and preach a sermon. But it's total life and what a dam could mean for those people. And there came the time you had to send your children to boarding school. Can you even describe what that was like?
I now had the feeling that I know my mom and dad went through as they left me on the station in Calcutta, and I was crying out the window saying, Mommy, Daddy. I now was facing that myself. And we had to fly the kids to Senegal, which was about a 3.5-hour flight on a little plane, I shouldn't say private, little missions plane. And it was hard. And I told them, and they knew how I had survived, and they knew that I had gone to school. I think that meant a lot to know that I had been there myself.
Now, also, you worked in the leper colony. It was kind of hands-on, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were back in the jungle.
You even delivered babies?
Yes.
What did you think when you were writing this book? Is this real? Is this true?
That's right. I can't imagine Mary delivering babies, thank you, you know. I mean,
she's always so dressed up, for one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a shock to me that she was you know, so strong in those days, you know, and she could adjust and just be so resilient and walk through the jungles, you know, and she said to me, I said, how did you do that? Weren't you afraid? She said, well, you know, if you live in a little box somewhere, you know, you're always protected, so you have to take risks in life. And so I was amazed at her resilience and able to adjust in that environment.
What were you able to do for the lepers?
Well,
I know it's different today.
Yes.
There's a lot more they can do.
Well, yes, and now we don't have colonies. The World Health Organization came to the conclusion that we were breeding leprosy by having colonies. So they do treat them, and they're left in their cities. But we taught them school. And of course, the whole purpose of the leper colony was to preach the gospel. But we used these other methods to get to them. And yes, it was a real experience. But you know, my husband's parents started the first leper colony in North India. So here we were as missionaries kids, again, him going back to a leper colony. And Kenny was a very hands-on person. I mean, when the plane fell apart, he built parts and welded them and all to put in the plane. There was no case calling the, you know, the supply company and getting it out there. So the Lord had built our lives, and that's really the story of my book, is how God puts you in places in life. You think, God, what am I doing here? What does this mean? But it's definitely part of what God has in his plan. And the orange thread of life that I see in the tapestry of my life is the excitement. God plans it. And even though you think, how will this be meaningful in your life? God shows you as you live life fully.
Yeah, now he was a missionary's kid, and so were you.
Yes.
I wonder what the percentage is of missionary kids who follow in their parents' footsteps. I think it's probably pretty remarkable. I know a lot of them.
It is pretty remarkable. You know the interesting thing about missionaries' kids? They either become resentful of the life that they've lived, or they become fully involved in missions. Exactly.
Yeah. If you just tuned in, I'm talking with Mary McClellan and Shirley Fulbright, some friends for a long time. And together they have written the story of Mary's life, The Crash, the Ring, and the Orange Thread. It's Zulon Press. We're going to put her website up now and keep it up for the rest of the program. It's brand new, so you just, I'm sure Amazon and...
Yes, you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the sites.
You know, the regular places you can get it. As a missionary's kid, though, when you went to Africa, I mean, this was so primitive. I almost threw up when I was reading about the rats and the ants and the. Was this reminiscent of India, or was this rougher?
Well, I started out in India when, of course, I went when I was 1 year and 9 months old. But I started out in the jungle. And then my father progressed to feeling that the Indians would never be reached if they didn't reach themselves. So then he went into Bible school work and started Southern Asia Bible Institute in Bangalore. So I wasn't in the bush in my teen years, but going back to the bush, you know, you adapt. When God calls you to something, he gives you what it takes. You adapt.
When I read your book, I mean, it would have to be the work of God, you know, and snakes.
Oh, yeah.
Big snakes.
I remember the first...
I thought, oh, Mary, I didn't know you had to go through
I remember
all
the first night we went to sleep in Africa when we got back to New Hope, and I looked up and the boards on the top of the roof were like just boards laid there with spaces between. And you could see the rats running between, the tails hanging beneath the board. But fortunately, we slept under mosquito nets, so if they fell, they didn't fall on you.
Wonderful.
They fell on the mosquito net.
I bet you were going through this thinking, is she making this up?
Yeah.
If we didn't know you so well, we might. Also, I just had to pull out some of this stuff. You're cooking deer. Was it roadkill, or did somebody?
Well, they'd come by with the deer on a stick, and we'd buy it. We bought
And
it by
had the fur on it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You bought a hunk of the deer, and then you'd weigh it on a scale, and you'd pay so many.
What'd you do with the fur?
You cut it off.
Oh, Mary, you are something else.
And then, of course, you know, in papaya is
I like papaya.
Okay, well, the seed is what's is a tenderizer. So we take the meat, roll it out, and take the papaya, because the whole colony had papayas and pineapples, and roll the papaya in the meat, and it tenderized it. So really, it was quite good. Without the fur.
I'll take your word for it. Now, your husband Ken, he was fearless, wasn't he?
He was.
He's flying around this little plane all over the place. not a real landing strip, right?
Yeah. In Liberia, when you flew, the compass would often go wacky because you're on the equator. So we didn't know if we were going north, south, east, or west. And the cloud layer was, because it's on the equator, and the cloud layer in Liberia is because it's wet. That's why rubber is so famous from Liberia. You couldn't see below. So, but he loved
Did you go up in those planes?
Oh yeah, I flew my kids. My husband flew my kids to school in Senegal on that little plane. When I became pregnant with my third child, I had to fly an hour and a half to Monrovia to see a doctor.
Okay, tell us what happened. Where was he going, and what was his mission when it crashed?
We had been in Monrovia for my doctor's appointment. We flew home via Chin, which is an Alps kind of station in Liberia, back to Cape Palmas, back to New Hopetown that day. And he said, we got a message that there were 2 pastors from Texas that were coming and wanted to see New Hope. So they asked him to fly back to Monrovia and get them. He got on the runway. I remember him opening the window, waving to me, saying, I love you, honey, flew off into the distance where we dropped off in a gully and then came up the other side. And he had always made the arrangements that if he wasn't back by 6 o'clock at night, that he would radio me on the shortwave radio, our only way of communication. That night came, 6 o'clock, no call. It's 6:45, no call. And then I heard that on the ham radio, Mary, is there anybody at New Hope? Cape Palmas to New Hope. Dashed down to the radio on our leper colony and got the word, Mary, we don't know what, but was Kenny out today? Was he flying? And I said, yes. She said, he buzzed our home. And the way he would buzz it, he'd buzz the house and then go around and come in this little landing strip. Mm-hmm. She said, he buzzed our house 3 times. We went down and put the lights on the runway. We never flew at night in Liberia, so he had lost an hour of time somewhere. Put the lights on the runway, she said, but the plane never came in.
You know, Shirley, as you were, I think it's so good that you joined her in this effort. And we've all had those why questions. But when you're putting together this amazing story of snakes and furry meat and ants and all, and then the love of her life goes down. Do you have one of those why God moments?
Well,
because you had to put it on paper.
Yeah, through it all, I did. You know, I was going from the beginning of her life and knowing what she was now, you know, and where she was. And it was all kind of a mystery. But you know, the Lord was with me in it all. I must say, what He showed me in the process of is really what I say the book is about, because it was His writing with us that made the difference for me. And it was exciting to me, to tell you the truth. I mean,
you know what a good writer she is when she captivated us and had never been there.
Yeah.
Oh, I know it. It was very hard for me to lay it down. How long did it take, you know, after you're getting these kind of emergency calls until there was something found to indicate that the plane had crashed and your husband probably had perished?
Yeah, well, I got the message at about 8 or 7:30 that night. I went in a dump truck. I was 5 months pregnant, and I said, I've got to go to the coast. So we went in a dump truck, and it took 2.5 hours to go over those roads. And when I got there, they met me at the door. The missionaries met me with his pilot's license in their hand. It had washed ashore. So at that moment, I knew then. But I still thought, Kenny's out on the wing of an airplane floating in the ocean. He'll be okay. But it was about, you know, an overnight hours.
Did they find the plane?
Not for a long time later. You know, we were in Africa. It wasn't like the Coast Guard came out and started looking. Little people in rowboats went out to the ocean and they came up with all sorts of stories and everything. But it was almost a week before Kenny was found.
And it did crash in the water.
They went right, instead of hitting the end of the runway, they went right into the side of the ground underneath the water. And you see, the west coast of Africa there's no beach. It's just a drop off. The east coast of Africa has the lovely beach. And he just went down, didn't hit the runway.
You had 2 little girls, you were expecting a third. Can you at all describe what it was like when you realized he's gone?
Well, I remember that night looking out over the ocean saying, oh God, he's out there somewhere. I know he's out there somewhere. And they came along and said, Mary, you need to take an aspirin. So I said, I don't want anything. I've got to be here. Well, because I was 5 months pregnant, I thought I was taking an aspirin. I went to sleep. When I woke up, it was morning. And I can remember somebody coming into the room and saying, I'm going to read to you, Mary. And I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? Where's Kenny? And they read to me from Isaiah 40. And the words they read were, he shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather them in his arms and gently lead those that are with young. And
Wow.
I said, God, I don't even remember ever reading that verse.
No, I don't either.
And suddenly, this was, and the words from the hymn, Come Ye Disconsolate, came to me. Earth hath no sorrow that heaven cannot heal.
Let me ask you girls something. Will you hang around? I'd like to talk to you a little bit longer.
Sure.
Because we're just really starting on this story. And I want to present it to you because as we live with our air conditioning and our comfortable mattresses and every kind of creature comfort that man has thought of so far in our instant communications, we forget what God requires of some of his people and what he asks them to do. And we need to remember that. I am so thankful for the years I grew up in church. My dad was a pastor, and he'd bring these missionaries in, and we would just be awe-stricken to think of, you know, what they were doing, and they'd have the little artifacts on the altar and so forth. It's changed a lot since then, but God still requires a lot of some of his people. And I bring this to you because I hope that you'll just, if you don't have the missionaries on your prayer list, I hope you will do it. And be sure and join us on the next program because I'm going to continue with this story. I think it's important enough, and it's much too interesting to give to just one show, okay? So please join me next time, remembering there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you would like a video copy of today's Homekeepers program for just $19.95, call 1-800-229-0059 for credit card orders, or send a gift of at least $19.95 to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. Be sure to note the program number which appears on your screen.